Bill 273 relating to identification cards. Chair recommends that we pass this with amendment. This is the Chaplain Urasaki's amendment to add correctional staff.
Thank you, Chair. SB 273 with amendments. With members present, anybody voting no or with reservations? Seeing none, measure passes. Chair.
Thank you. Senate Bill 1202, Senate Bill 1362, and Senate Bill 1201. Chair recommends that we defer decision-making until December 17, 1:20 p.m. in room 16.
December 17th?
What did I say?
December.
Sorry, I'm still in Christmas. Okay, February 17, 1:20 p.m. in room 16. Thank you. And for the Human Services and Housing Agenda, 3:29 p.m., there's one bill, Senate Bill 1101, relating to Hawaii Public Housing Authority. Chair recommends that we pass this with amendment.
Take the vote. Okay. As Chair is recommended, Chair?
Aye.
I vote aye. Senator Haramoto is excused. Senator Rivera?
Aye.
Senator Sloan is excused.
Thank you. And the last agenda, 4:30 p.m. agenda, Senate Bill 481. Chair recommends that we pass this with amendments.
Thank you. With amendments on 481, Chair?
Aye.
I vote aye. Senator Rivera?
Aye.
Measures adopted.
Thank you very much.
What do you want to do? You want to move now to the other agenda? Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for your patience, and we do extend our apologies to people who have traveled for these large pieces of legislation, which have a lot of testifiers. We have now agenda Senate Bill 692 is Health and Ag together. First, this is relating to pesticides, removing the warning notice for first violations for Chapter 149A for pesticide law, making it a Class C felony for any person who causes physical harm to another person through negligent use. We had Ken Kakisako with comments. Lynn Wilson was in support. Peggy McArdle was in support. Diane Ragone in opposition. Deb Mader in support. Ellie Cochran from Maui County Council in support. A woman named Sharon in support. Sharon Wilson again. Lynn Wilson again in support. Shannon Rudolph in support. Tim Lyons. Okay. DOA will follow. I guess we lost Michelle. It's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim Lyons with the Hawaii Pest Control Association, and we were just unclear as to whether this would apply to all the rules and regulations at DOA. We certainly wouldn't want it to see a criminal violation because the operator failed to complete his continuing education requirements, which is something they have to do. So it would seem to us that a warning notice of some sort should still be in effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Agriculture?
Chair Scott Enright, Chairman of the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. Chairs, I'll stand on our written testimony and with reservations and just quickly point out that the dropping the warning could inadvertently bring homeowners into jeopardy on this file item. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We next have Chris Caulfield in support. Adolf Helm.
Hello, I'm Chris Caulfield representing the AMUA Alliance. We're speaking in strong support of this particular measure. My organization is interested in this bill not because of the health risks of pesticide abuse, which have been articulated to you very eloquently today, but because of our work combating human trafficking in the islands. Unfortunately, in our work labor trafficking victims from both the North Shore of Oahu and on the outer islands, we found foreign workers hired as pesticide sprayers who get sick of repeated excessive exposure to restricted use pesticides. And in fact, 4 of our labor trafficking clients in the last couple of years have died of cancer, with the only common factor between the 4 being that they were pesticide sprayers. These victims spoke through translators. They could not read product labels or warnings that were written in English, and consequently did not mix or spray pesticides safely. Similarly, they are rarely given protective gear by farm owners and don't have proper training to apply pesticide safely on the fruits and vegetables they grow. We would just note that in 2012, Fat Law Farm, which deemed itself the king of basil in Hawaii, was ordered by the Department of Health to destroy its entire crop, its entire basil crop, all 29 acres, because it used an unapproved pesticide. Through spot testing, state investigators found that the farm was using the toxic pesticide methamil at 2 of its farm properties, and last year, the exact same farm was ordered by the U.S. Department of Labor to pay over $31,000 in civil penalties and $428,000 in wages to Laotian workers whom the department said were subjected to deplorable housing, safety, and health conditions. Thus, we feel that it's incumbent upon lawmakers to eliminate the warning notice requirements that impede proper investigations and full investigations of chemical abuse, and also to raise penalties for chemical criminals who too often we feel escape justice. We did have a couple of amendments we wanted to suggest. Because of our service experience with sprayers who passed away, we would urge you to add an additional subsection to the bill relating to that. We would urge you to add an additional subsection to the bill that raises the grade of an offense for a person who causes the death of another individual through negligent use of a pesticide, graded as a Class B felony. We would also suggest deleting the fine and imprisonment language on page 5, lines 2 to 3 of the bill, because these are already outlined in HRS 706-600. And finally, we would urge you to replace the term harm on page 4, line 20 of the bill with the term bodily injury. Harm is generally used throughout HRS to define an element of a crime. It appears in this bill that harm is being used as an element of the crime. Bodily injury in the criminal code is the term that's more frequently used, and it also encompasses illness as well as general pain, as well as more severe injuries. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. We also had, I had called Adolf Helm. Okay. Warren Watanabe in opposition, and Alan Gottlieb in opposition, Mark Phillipson in opposition, Iris Iwami in opposition, and then Renee Pinnell in opposition. Bear with me for a second on late testimony. Do I have anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
For Department of Agriculture, Scott? Thank you. The current law says that any person who violates this chapter or any rule issued upon this chapter may, upon first violation, be issued a written warning notice. So it appears to presently allow some discretion. So whether if a homeowner inadvertently did something wrong or a farmer did something wrong, there could be some discretion in the enforcement, or they could go straight after it.
That's correct. And having that discretion, it's the Department of Agriculture finds that most of our agriculturalists inadvertently make mistakes. I mean, there are exceptions, and we know that, but they're usually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And by striking this, then you would have to impose the penalty.
That's the way we understand it. Yes, Vice Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Members, any other questions? Okay. Again, we thank you for your indulgence. We're going to move to Senate Bill 379, different area of ag policy and health policy, expanding and creating new categories for homemade food processing. Department of Health.
Hi, afternoon, Chairs Green and Ruderman and members of the Health Committee and Ag Committee. My name is Peter Oshiro. I'm the Program Manager for the Department of Health Sanitation and Food and Drug Branch and Vector Control Programs. The Department opposes this bill as comprehensive food safety regulations were recently adopted that incorporates the most current science in controlling risk factors known to cause food illnesses. This measure amends HRS 328 and conflicts with and creates confusion with existing Hawaii administrative rules, which currently regulates the food industry. Hawaii Administrative Rules Chapter 50, the Food Safety Code, already provides the homemade food industry the opportunity to produce non-potentially hazardous foods, for example, cookies, breads, jams, etc., from their home kitchens for direct sales to consumers. This bill is contrary to HAR Chapter 50, as well as the FDA Model Food Code, which is the national standard for regulating the food industry. The bill introduces concepts of self-certification and requires the department to issue permits, but in some cases is explicitly forbidden or prohibited from conducting initial and routine inspections, and limits the frequency of governmental inspections also. It also includes unnecessary complexities such as multiple classes of cottage foods and the implementation of an approval process to add or delete foods for each class of these cottage foods. This bill does not address also legal and constitutional issues regarding governmental entry and inspection of a person's domicile and the possible need for search warrants when inspections are refused or interfered with by the homeowners. Pursuant to legislative resolution SCR 97 last year, the department has been an integral part of the homemade food industry working group, which is tasked to address cottage food industries issues, and will be making, and I guess this group will be making recommendations to the legislature regarding the progress made. The department is willing to amend our existing administrative rules as long as it does not increase the possibility of food illness risk factors known to cause foodborne illnesses. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Office of the County Clerk from Kauai in support. Did I have Anna Lisa Koya here?
Aloha, Chair Green, Chair Ruderman, members of the committee. Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here and to testify. My name is Annalisa Okoye. I work for the Kohala Center on Hawaii Island. I'm here today on behalf of the Kohala Center. We work with agricultural businesses statewide with the goal of decreasing Hawaii's dependence on imported food. And the Kohala Center strongly supports Senate Bill 379. The bill creates a pathway to creating a cottage food industry in Hawaii, and it also achieves a dual purpose of protecting consumer health while expanding economic opportunity for small businesses. The bill expands economic opportunity by creating an annual permit system for cottage food operations, and it also allows cottage food operations that fall under Class B and C to make direct sales to consumers and also to make indirect sales to retailers such as a hotel or a restaurant. In addition to expanding economic opportunity, the bill mitigates risk and protects consumers by proposing a series of food safety measures that go beyond what the Hawaii Department of Health currently requires for cottage food producers. These food safety measures include mandatory food safety training, certification with a list of sanitary guidelines for producing food in a cottage food operation. It requires kitchen inspections for Class B and C operations. And for Class C operations, it requires product testing as well as advanced food safety training. And Class C was modeled after the North Carolina and Pennsylvania systems, which allow classes of food that's contained in the list of allowable foods under item 29. These foods are allowed in Pennsylvania and North Carolina if the food producers comply with advanced food safety training, undergo inspections in their home kitchen, and also submit their products to food testing. So the bill is modeled after those two states. The key provisions of this bill are modeled after cottage food legislation that's been adopted in over 40 states. From our research, these states have not experienced incidents of foodborne illness from registered cottage food operations. Notably, 5 of the 10 most populous states in the nation allow cottage food operations to make indirect sales to retailers. This includes New York, California, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And in addition, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Louisiana, and Utah also allow indirect sales to consumers as well. We're completely aligned with the Department of Health that food safety and protecting the consumers is paramount. From our survey of the nation, other states have struck a different balance from what we currently have. We feel like this bill is in line with that balance that's been struck nationwide. Fundamentally, this is about protecting consumer health and creating economic opportunity. And should this bill be passed, it would allow for a food entrepreneur to launch a small cottage food business, say after a year of operating history, go to a bank, apply for a loan, to then build a certified kitchen or processing facility and become a full-fledged local commercial food business. So we see this as a pathway. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify and for your consideration of this bill.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience today.
Oh, thank you.
Courtney Turner in support. Corey in support. Doug Phillips in support. Rosemary Patrona in support. Vicki Levin in support. Simon Russell, Hawaii Farm Union United in support. Ken Love in support. Ned Whitlock in support. Steve Sakala, Hawaii Farmers Union United Kona chapter, in support. Ano Hanamana, in support. Nate Hayward, in support. Clive Cheatham, in support. Philip Sugarman, comments. Harriet Witt, support. Janava Baldessari, in support. Karen Murray, in support. Philip Sugarman, in support. The Lidette family, in support. Benjamin Ferris, in support. Galen Barron, in support. Renee Kester, in support. And Ray Lean, in support. Department of Ag, you seem to be outnumbered slightly today. Sorry about health. Yeah, see, so close, but I get confused.
We submitted it.
Okay, and Ag. Have I missed anyone else? My apologies. Christina Ofield, Farm Bureau.
Farm Bureau in support.
Okay, thank you. Carrie from the Farmers Marketeers in support. Renee Souza in support. Joseph Cohn, Dr. Joseph Cohn in support. Faye Pacheco in support. Faye Wallace in support. Katie Ranke in support. Terry Langley in support. Brandon Lee in support. Actually, Chris, I had you last, unfortunately. There, thank you. Did I have someone from Olopono? Oh, Kyle. Yes, please, if you'd like.
Thank you, Chair Green, Chair Ruderman, and members of the committee. I'm Kyle Dada, General Partner of Ulupono, testifying on behalf of the local food coalition, which includes Farmers Union, Farmers Bureau, Hawaii Cattlemen's Association, Hawaii Aquaculture, importantly, the Hawaii Food Industry Association, the Hawaii Food Manufacturers Association, and a number of community groups. This is one of our top priority bills as a coalition. It's something which all of agriculture represented by the coalition is strongly in support. In response to the department's testimony, we want to bring up just 4 issues to consider. First, we want to thank the department for being part of the working group in the legislature for commissioning the working group, and we appreciate the Kohala Center for leading that effort. And the recommendations of the working group are embedded into this bill. The first thing to consider is, why do we need legislation as opposed to rulemaking? Legislation is required when there's matters of policy. There are 4 matters of policy that are pertained in this bill. The first is the permit approach itself. It's a different approach. It's a matter of policy. The inclusion of indirect sales as part of that is a matter of policy. The inclusion of acidized foods and the process for managing that and bringing them in or out is a matter of policy. And then finally, because the Department of Health embodied the federal code, which is actually a set of recommendations, into our administrative code, therefore changes that we're trying to achieve here are actually going to be a matter of policy as opposed to a matter of rulemaking. So that's why we have legislation in front of you today as opposed to going through the rulemaking approach. The second thing is to remember that the entire focus of this bill is on potentially non-hazardous foods, i.e. intrinsically safe foods. And so while we completely respect and honor the department's desire to protect public safety, as every member of the coalition does, including, again, the retailers and the manufacturers, we're talking about foods that are intrinsically safe to manufacture in these types of home kitchens as well as in any other establishments. The issue that we're also trying to bring up is a matter of government efficiency. The approach suggests that particularly in Class A permitting, which is a self-certification approach, annual permitting, it's an annual permit, it allows for online training as opposed to having to attend courses, really improves the efficiency of government, will actually lower the workload of the department in administering this. Again, Class A is for the smaller operators that are providing direct sales. And then in Class B, we added the protection that the department we felt sought around safety by allowing inspections to occur in that context. We note that there are other government agencies that also have inspection requirements, and they have resolved the issues the department raises in its testimony about the protocol for such inspections. This is not the first time a government agency will have to do home inspections. So For these reasons, we felt that the bill has addressed many of the compartment's concerns, and we appreciate the opportunity to testify before you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Do you have any other late testifiers today? Members, any questions?
We have a couple questions for the Department of Health. Who's about?
Hi.
Afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the work and time you've put in on this over the last few months. We appreciate it. So I take your concerns very seriously, of course, and I just want to ask you a couple of questions about it. I understand your concern about sending your inspectors into home kitchens, and that's a big part of looking at Class B foods. They would require inspections, and the issue is how is that inspection going to happen, right? Would you be open to third-party certification of the kitchen, such as, I don't know the name, there's several organizations that do food safety training, and they could, at the cottage food operator's expense, inspect the kitchen, and that could be part of the permit application to you. Could that partially address?
No, we would never agree to self-certification or third-party inspections. And the problem with that is you're going to do it for money. And that's always the reason why you need government to do regulatory work, because supposedly we're not supposed to be influenced by outside forces. But if you're hiring a private company whose sole purpose is to either pass or fail people that do this, I can assure you they're going to pass almost everybody. If they start to fail people, then they're out of business. So it interferes, I think, with their objectivity when money is involved and you're paying for, quote unquote, protections for public health. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any circumstances under which, let's say, if you had the funding for this, that you would be okay with your people doing these?
No, because again, it's not more efficient. It's much more inefficient to do it this way, because we already allow it by not charging fees to these non-potentially hazardous food. The proposal in here is also to pay fees, and we also have to track education certificates. They're proposing that all these food operators also be educated by some kind of a online certification process. So anytime you make a rule, somebody has to make sure that's being followed. So this does not make it more efficient. It's very efficient now in that we give these permits for non-potentially hazardous foods with no charge at all. The Health Department is willing to look into extending these permits to 1 year and revising our administrative rules to do so. But to do it this way makes us more inefficient. It does not make us more efficient. It's more regulation and rules and fee collections.
Does it help at all that we're adding a new level of training and education that doesn't exist now for
No, it does not, because our future plans is to introduce that very shortly as mandatory for the food industry. So that's our goal anyway, is to require mandatory food training for the for-profit people. We have not looked at it for the non-PHF people, and it's a good thing. We always agree. That's one thing we agreed with the working group. The more education, the better. Yeah, we would never say not to get educated.
Okay. We've heard that 40 states allow cottage food operations, including quite a few very popular states that allow the Class B indirect foods. And I know that this has been growing in recent years, correct?
I don't think that's true. That statement is not true, where 40 states allow indirect sales.
No, I'm sorry. 40 states allow cottage food operations.
Including ours, yes.
Right.
We do allow it right now, currently.
And New York and California, I believe, are among those that allow indirect sales. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but California has state rules. Counties choose to adopt the portion of the state rule. Hawaii's food regulatory program is run just like the Department of Education, where it's a statewide system. On the mainland, in nearly every single state, it's a county system. Yeah. So the state is there for oversight, and usually the county adopts portions of the state code.
Okay, has the cottage food industry nationwide been growing? Is this sort of a trend?
I think it has been, yes. That's probably a true statement, yes.
Has there been like a rash of outbreaks of problems associated with this growth?
No, there are not. And let me make the difference. I'll be very honest. We do not see, obviously because of the nature of non-potentially hazardous foods, they're called that because they don't cause illness. But there is another concern, which is contamination and adulteration. So whatever's in a household, you guys were talking a lot about pesticides just recently. People in the households, they spray indiscriminately. You see roaches running around, they're just going to start shooting all over the place. So there's a high chance of that happening in a domicile. Contamination is rodents. When you look at Kanemitsu Bakery, one of our biggest most, I guess, publicized event, had nothing to do with hazardous food. It was strictly non-PHS bakery items coming out of that bakery. They were rat-infested, rodent-infested, insect-infested. That's why it had to be shut down. So this is what we'll see in people's residences because they're not under any standard of cleanliness. So we don't know whether the house is rodent-infested. We don't know if it's rat-infested or cockroaches running around. So that's the danger we always have in trying to regulate something that's going on in a person's home. Yeah. In addition to sick children, sick kids, sick members, always in the house where they're required to stay to convalesce, yeah, rather than restricting them from a kitchen, which is how the regular industry does it. No sick people are allowed to enter the facility, period. Yeah. But that's the concern we have.
That situation you just described was in a certified commercial kitchen, right?
I'm sorry, which one? The economy too big, yes. Yeah. So I'm just saying that it can spread also to a domicile, yes.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions, Chair.
Okay. Members, we've had a very long afternoon. Let's move to Senate Bill 592. This is requiring farmers market vendors that direct market potentially hazardous food products to obtain permits. We had DOH.
Afternoon again, Hanaho. Basically, the testimony is going to be pretty much the same. The department respectfully opposes this bill. Again, as comprehensive food safety regulations were already recently adopted, the proposal to create new food regulations under HRS 145 conflicts with and creates confusion with existing Hawaii Administrative Rules Chapter 50. These rules were recently signed by the governor in February of 2014 and already regulate value-added food products in the state. The current rule already allows farmers the opportunity to produce non-potentially hazardous food items from their farms for direct sales to consumers. The proposed measure also conflicts with the Model Food Code, which is the national standard for regulating the food industry. One of the major conflicts is the proposal to allow the sale of potentially hazardous foods from a home kitchen. The FDA Model Food Code, as well as our Hawaii Administrative Rules, explicitly prohibits the production of potentially hazardous foods in home kitchens. And these are foods that are capable of transmitting life-threatening diseases and toxins such as meats, poultry, eggs, dairy, seafood, bottling or canning of protein foods, and any cooked foods, any cooked vegetables or starches. Allowing potentially hazardous foods to be prepared in an unregulated home kitchen would put the health and safety of Hawaii's citizens and visitors at undue risk for contracting potentially and fatal foodborne illnesses. Nearly all home kitchens in the state fall well short of requirements that permitted food establishments must adhere to. The environment of a home kitchen is also not conducive to the safe preparation of potentially hazardous foods that would be served to the public for profit. The required control of the home environment can be difficult with the presence of pets living in the home, infants, toddlers, children, and adults with communicable diseases that live in these households, and allowed unrestricted access to food preparers while convalescing can potentially expose everyone in the household to disease. Licensed and inspected facilities are required to exclude any person with a communicable disease and also exclude any personnel that may have had vomiting or diarrhea within the last 72 hours, and exclude anyone with open cuts or wounds on their hands and arms. This measure also proposes that potentially hazardous food products be labeled, but simply labeling a potentially hazardous food does not make it safe for consumption. The sale of homemade potentially hazardous foods is considered to be a major violation and is one of the 5 key food illness risk factors identified by the CDC and FDA as an unapproved source of food. The proposed rule also explicitly prohibits inspections of home kitchens that produce non-potentially hazardous foods. This could potentially endanger public health as it would prevent the department from investigating food illness cases or complaints regarding the adulteration of food products. This bill does not address legal and constitutional issues, again, regarding government entry into people's homes and the possibility that search warrants would be needed to do inspections. And I just also mentioned that we were participating in the Home Food Task Group. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Corey? In support, Doug Phillips. In support, Ano Hanamana. In support, Sherry Camden. In support, Amara Karuna. In support, Carlton York. In support, Shannon Rudolph. In support, Rosemary Patronette. In support, Carrie from the Farmers Marketeers. In support, Corey Chang. In support, John Gordines. Opposition, Chris Manfredi, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
In support.
In support. Any late testifiers on 592? Members, any questions? Yes.
For the Department of Health? Just out of curiosity,
Yes.
I can understand the concern about going into the potentially hazardous foods, but if the regulations already allow people to do direct sales of non-hazardous foods. What's the concern about expanding that to doing indirect sales of that category of food?
Yeah, that's a real good question. The main reason for that is the FDA Model Food Code. If your Long's Drugs, or let's say you want to buy locally produced foods, you're not allowed to, based on federal rules, to bring in homemade foods into a commercial facility that already has a permit. That's why only direct sales to consumer are allowed. The intention is to intentionally reduce the amount of volume coming out of a home kitchen. So that's the whole purpose, yeah.
So if you could achieve that same goal, where I think they do for small scale agricultural producers, you know, if they're selling within X number of miles within the, you know, their farm and no more than X dollar value, then they're exempted from certain things. Could you do that for the indirect sales too, where it's, you know, so it's you limit the scale of production,
Distance would be very hard, but we would look at dollar amounts. You know, if it limits to 50,000 a year or 100,000 a year or something, that would be reasonable. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that would open up for sale at farmers markets or other things like that.
Correct.
Okay, so that you guys would be open to?
Yes, we would.
Thank you.
Okay, members. If there are no other questions, we're going to take a brief recess, do some decision making on several measures, and then we're going to finish this.
Sorry, before you recess, you gave lay testimony to your staff on SB692 in opposition.
Thank you. Okay, so take a brief recess.
Medical evidence is staggering and unnerving. As a doctor, it is my obligation to tend to the health of my community. I take this responsibility with great seriousness. I respectfully urge the committee members here to take their role as policymakers with the same level of seriousness.
Back, thank you. Let me actually first do one that's a little bit simpler, was off this agenda. We had measure Senate Bill 801, which was relating to the health impact of pesticides. We're going to wrap that discussion up now. This was health and energy. We had comprehensive testimony in the measure. Does everyone feel, I want to again, that they were adequately heard on this measure? Okay. The recommendation is to actually utilize the contents of 797 into Senate Bill 801, and then so that would be passing that with amendments. Members, this is 801, which is health and energy, just health and energy. Sorry. Yes, and 797, to remind everyone, which they were virtually the same contents. These were variations of one another, was just establishing notice, reporting, and using requirements for any entity. So it was just notice and reporting. Okay? Okay. So any questions or discussion, members? Seeing none, chair votes aye on 801, Senate Bill 801.
To pass with amendments.
Yes.
Vice Chair votes yes. Senator Baker. Excuse. Senator Gabbard.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Ruderman.
Aye.
Senator Sloan. Excuse. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then we have energy.
The same recommendation for E&E. I need one more for He's walking down the aisle right now. He's coming in. I think we have 3.
It's me, you, and who?
Leslie Hart.
Okay. Just energy. You didn't have. Okay, thank you. We'll wait for a few seconds.
Oh, yeah. We're voting on the other one.
I don't know if it was just water.
What's that?
800 or 801?
801.
I didn't hear that call for that.
We.
Is that part of the first one?
Yes.
Is 800 part of the first one?
Actually, that was the 335 agenda. That was when I asked if anyone had any testimony to add.
Okay.
All right. All right, no problem. What's that? Not 800. 800 is, we have not heard yet.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
This is not agriculture, right?
No, it's not agriculture. Yeah, this is just energy.
Okay,
Yeah.
as I said, same recommendation for E&E.
On Senate Bill 801.
On Senate Bill 801.
Amended, yes.
Amended, yes. Chair votes aye.
Okay, we're voting on Senate Bill 801 to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Senator Green.
Aye.
Senator Hart votes aye. The condition passes.
Thank you, members. Thank you for your indulgence. For clarification, we still have not heard Senate Bill 800, which will be discussed later. The next measures we had were Senate Bill 692. This was relating to pesticides. I'm going to defer to the Chairman of Agriculture for recommendations.
We're going to recommend that we amend this bill by changing the part that says a warning notice shall be issued or may be issued. We're going to keep the part that says the department can issue warning notices on first offenses, but pass the rest of it as is. So to pass with amendments, please, for the Agriculture Committee on 692.
Okay. You want to take the vote first? Yes, Ag.
SB692 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator John Oakland.
Aye.
Senator Taniguchi, excused. Senator Thielen.
Reservations.
Senator Wakai.
Reservations.
Senator Sloan, excused. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Measure passes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. The Health Committee makes the same recommendation, mirroring the Ag Chairperson's recommendations. Chair votes aye. This is the amended bill.
Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Baker. Excuse. Senator Gabbard.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Ruderman.
Aye.
Senator Sloan. Excuse. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Senate Bill 379, thank you, members, is relating to food. This was the homemade food bill. The Chair of Ag is going to make some substantive amendment requests.
We're going to amend this bill by deleting the sections relating to zoning, deleting the sections relating to Class C cottage food operations, which include fermented food and acidic foods, and those are the two amendments for the bill. So the recommendation is to pass SB 379 with amendments.
Discussion?
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair, I need to recuse myself from Senate Bill 379 and Senate Bill 592. I have a direct conflict of interest. My husband and I are founding members of the Wanganalo Market Co-op. We sell produce from our property down there, and I just don't feel comfortable voting on this bill because there's a good likelihood that we would participate in this too.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your conscientiousness, Senator.
Just you as absent, yes. You can just not vote. She'll not cast a vote, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Senate Bill 379 with amendments?
Yes.
Okay. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator John Oakland.
Aye.
Senator Taniguchi excused. Senator Thielen excused. Senator Wakai.
Yes.
And Senator Sloan excused. Chair, measure passes.
Thank you, Chair.
The Health Committee will make the same recommendation. It's pretty evident I will never cook anything in my house suitable for sale, so I will not recuse myself for this measure. And Chair votes aye.
Vice Chair votes yes. Senator Baker, excuse. Senator Gabbard.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Ruderman.
Aye.
Senator Sloan, excuse. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. On Senate Bill 592, this is the Farmers Market Bill. Chair, would you like to make your recommendations again? Technical amendments, I know.
Technical amendments only.
Okay. So the recommendation, the chairs, would be to pass this with technical amendments. Senate Bill 592. The chair votes aye unless there's discussion.
Vice Chair votes yes. Senator Baker, excuse. Senator Gabbard.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Ruderman.
Aye.
Senator Sloan, excuse. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Yes.
Senate Bill 592 for Agriculture Committee, 592 with amendments. Of the members present, does anybody wish to vote nay or with reservations? And noting the excused of Taniguchi, Thielen, and Sloan, measure passes.
Thank you, members. We're in the home stretch. We've been asked by the Capitol TV folks to give them a very brief 2 or 3 minute recess to change out their tapes, and then we'll be back.